Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. I'm your host, Braiden, and I'm a human just like you, striving to build a dream life, all while staying true to me. It is my ultimate goal to help you to build the highest level of authenticity possible, all while staying true to you. But what if you struggle building connection with other individuals and with self due to high emotions? That's exactly why we have Bob Kittell coming into the podcast today, as he struggled with it all. He came up into a household that was absolutely beautiful, although he struggled with anxiety, depression, stress, and trying to build a life that was true to him that ultimately caused chaos. And on the flip side, he learned how to manage his emotions through building deep connection with self and others, allowing him to build a true, authentic life. That in mind, welcome to the podcast, Bob Kittell.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. It's such a blessing to have you on here.
I'll share that with my kids.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will. Just a background for the guests here. We met like 5 years, and we'll give a shout out to Matt Fritchie for introducing us.
Hi, Matt.
With that in mind, jumping in, what inspired you to, one, be a memory coach and ultimately being a speaker?
What's interesting is my senior year of college, I used to go through the phone book and the yellow pages back when they had them and go, I wonder what I want to be when I grow up. And I went, A, accounting, no. B, baker, no. C, computer science, no. D, donuts. Donuts. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I'm really sick. And a friend of mine said, here, listen to this. And it was Zig Ziglar on a cassette tape, See You at the Top. And as I was listening to it, it was just like the universe, whatever, said, oh, you're going to do that one day. Had no idea what that meant, but I started preparing that day. I stopped watching TV. I have over 1,000 cassette tapes because that's what we used to do back in the Stone Age, listen to cassette tapes. Started collecting quotes, and I had no idea where it was going to go. And then one day, Zig Ziglar, in the back of his book called See You at the Top, he has a bibliography of here's books you ought to read. One was called The Memory Book. So I'm in the bookstore and I see, oh, The Memory Book. Zig said I should read that. So I started reading it and I went, you got to be kidding me. School could have been this easy. So when my GPA went from 3.0 to 3.8, I thought, I wonder if other people want to learn how to do this. And so I taught 3,000 college students in college how to do it for free, graduated and went, I wonder if people will pay for this. And they did. And that's what started everything.
I love that. So bringing it back to even before that, what inspired you to want to figure out what you want to do to grow up? Was it just because you were going through the motions like everybody else, or was there a driving factor there?
Oh, it was an absolute driving factor of fear. When I was growing up, I had one pair of school pants and they better last me all year. I wanted a bicycle. I had to go find a job and make the money to get a bicycle. When I was in college, I was dirt poor. But one day, my father invited me to go to work with him one day. And I don't know if you know how loud it is in a steel plant, how hot and miserable it is in a steel plant. But at the end of the day, my dad said, son, if you can't get into college next year, I might be able to pull some strings and get you a job working with me here at the factory. And that was the single most motivating force in my life. I was scared to death to be stuck doing something I hated doing for the rest of my life.
I feel like that in this day and age, that's a big fear for a lot of people.
I'm not really sure what their big fear is, but I did read in the book, Lost Connections, that one of the reasons people deal with mental illness is they don't have a sense of purpose, a purpose of work. And if you're in a job where you just go, I'm just putting this part on this part, or doing something that you just go, how is this contributing to anything? I could see where that could cause some yuck.
Sure. So that journey from one, having the motivation of I do not want to work in this factory to finding your purpose. What was that journey like for you?
You know, what's interesting is I've kept a journal every day since my freshman year in college. To this day, I can tell you what happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 10 years ago, on 1980, May 13th. It's written there. And I was a pretty scared to death college kid going, I have no idea what's going on. So it was just taking the next step for the next day and just, finding something I could get excited about. It was football for a while. Then it was cheerleading for a while. Then it was finding girls for a while. Then it was, riding a motorcycle each day for a while. It was just trying to get through each day. For me, it was survival, but I didn't know. I just thought everybody was going through what I was going through.
So what I'm hearing, and tell me if this is correct or incorrect, is that you essentially were trying to mask your emotions of anxiety, fears, depressions, and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah. It's especially when you become a speaker. One of the other speakers I know that's very famous was backstage saying, we can't let them see our weaknesses. And I'm going, hey, when I started sharing with people my struggle, it opened up all the doors.
That's the truth. I feel like our vulnerable moments and our struggles, maybe not in the moment, but our past struggles that we share is ultimately what also sets other people free.
I remember one girl saying, Bob, you've changed. When we first went out, it was like you had 25 things memorized that you wanted to talk about. Now you just go with the flow. And she goes, this is so much more comfortable.
Do you feel like that's applicable to life as well as your speeches?
I've been playing that little game for a little while. There's a guy named Michael Singer who wrote the book, The Surrender Experiment. And I remember the day my coach said to me, Bob, what if life is a sacred journey living moment to moment? I go, what are you talking about? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And he said, how's that been working for you, Bob? And he challenged me to go 3 days, just going with the inspired thought, now what? And then just following the road wherever it went. And I had 3 of the most incredible days of my life. Meeting people, calling somebody because it popped into my head. So I was doing that for about 3 years, and I watched the doors open onto Tony Robbins stages, to having my own book, to refilming all of my memory stuff, and none of it cost me any money. So I was going, this is fascinating. Then I read Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, and I go, he's been doing this since the 1980s. So that is one way to live life, and I'm still enjoying it.
Sure. So that kind of, we're of course speaking here to a majority of young entrepreneurs. And the thought process that comes to mind is hustle culture, being tight on your schedule, being grind, go, go, go. I need to do X, Y, Z in order to be enough. Can you speak to that and how you feel that we could pivot away from that to best serve these young entrepreneurs' selves, but also ultimately the world?
I started reading all the self-help books and all of the how to get things done and time management. And once again, the book Lost Connections, we've been hoodwinked into thinking we need to do something to be of worth. You're already of worth, but we're not taught that. We've got to have the car to be of worth. We've got to get the trophy to be of worth. We've got to have the relationship to be of worth. And I go, well, are there people that have all that and they're still miserable? And I go, why? Like I was asked that question and I went, oh, I'm looking in the wrong direction. It's not out there. It's already in here. And so that's getting connected with yourself. But yeah, I mean, you're a kid and you're watching commercials. Did you know there are countries in Europe where they do not let children watch commercials or have commercials targeted toward children because it teaches them materialism? Materialism is directly correlated with depression. And where did you learn to be materialistic? I got to have the right shoes. By the time the kid's in kindergarten, he's already got his wardrobe and I'm going to do this. And how many kids do you hear? Or maybe you're saying, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And if I don't, so I lived that whole life. It was neurotic. It was go, go, go. And then finally, when I calmed down, I went, oh, there might be another way. And now a lot of the research is showing that, like the book Lost Connections, we're not one of the happiest countries in the world. We're pretty miserable.
And it's so simply tied to being materialistic, just chasing that next thing.
It's part of that. Another part of it is we are a me culture. In other countries, it's how do we make us happy? How do we make us successful? Here it's, I need to make me happy, me successful. And then you want more, and you're just neurotic all the way up. And then there's people that are neurotic because they're afraid they're going to lose what they have. I heard the story of some multi-millionaire had $100 million. He lost half of it in the stock market and he ended his life because he was so depressed he lost half his money. He still had 50 million. So it is interesting.
Absolutely. And the other thought process that comes to mind with this is it's always chasing the next thing and the next level. You get the Lamborghini and then at some point you want the Bugatti. You get that car and the next thing you know, you want the Camaro or whatever the case is. There's really no end to materialistic thinking.
You reminded me of all the things I learned that are not real. Like I'm a motivational speaker. I talked all about goals. And I read the 1953 study of, do you know this one?
I don't.
Yale University. It's in Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant. 1953, they did a study and found out something like, the numbers are something like this: 3% of the graduating senior class set goals and reviewed them on a daily basis. They tracked the whole class for 10 years and found out that 3% made more money than the other 97% combined. One day, somebody went to Tony Robbins. Hey, where'd you get that story? I got it from Brian Tracy. I've spoken with Brian Tracy too. It's in his book. Where'd you get that story? I got it from Zig Ziglar. Where'd you get that story? Well, Dad has passed away, but he read a lot of books. They went back to Yale. You look it up, you guys. Yale goes, we're sick of this. That story never happened. We researched it, never happened. Somebody's selling you on goals, and goals can be a processing addiction. You guys know how when you're pulling the slot machine, you lose. Oh, I won. That's a variable reward. That's the dopamine that hooks you into your addiction. And so what happens with goals? I didn't get it. I got it. Okay, how long is that Lamborghini going to make you happy? Oh, maybe I need 2 Lamborghinis. I'm not as happy as the day I got it. And so goals could be a processing addiction. It's actually better to have purpose than a goal.
I love that. So my question is, how do you get direction in your own personal life? Because a lot of people do get that direction. I want to go write this book. I want to go speak on this stage. I want to go meet this person. I want to go start a podcast. That quote unquote goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you get your direction, is through purpose?
I've been fortunate enough that it happened to work, but it reminds me of this. It's a Wonderful Life, the actor, Jimmy Stewart. He came and spoke to us at our university. And he said to all the actors, now these are all people that have the dream, I'm going to be a great actor. And he said, don't major in acting, which I'm sure the professors were happy to hear. He goes, go major in something you can make money at, and then go act. Then go do the thing you love. Because only 3 to 5% of you will actually make it big. It's the same in speaking, and maybe it's the same in everything. I don't know. It worked for me, but I'm an outlier. My son pointed this out. Dad, how many people get to speak 4 times a month and play with their kids all day, all the other days? So it goes back to, we were talking about this before the show started. When a psychologist from the University of Buffalo said, when we find out something empirical, works for sure in psychology, we have empirical evidence that it works. We know for a certainty it works for some of the people some of the time. So how many times are you going to hear out there, this is what you need to do to be rich? Well, it works for some of the people some of the time. So once again, being rich, if that's your idea of happiness, you're back to that, well, maybe are there people that have all the money in the world and they're still miserable? We're looking for it in the wrong direction. If you find it inside, it doesn't really matter. You get to follow your purpose. And a person who goes to a place of work where they have the same purpose, they'll get there early and stay late, and they love it. But if it's goal-driven, goal-oriented, it's high stress.
Absolutely. I love that. And as we talked before, go and speak at the military. It's simply because you know what it's like to go through the anxiety, the depression, the stress, and so on and so forth. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey from going through the hardship of your emotions, what your life looked like, and ultimately how you transformed that to be where you're at today?
Yeah, I was on the cycle of highs and lows. Eventually, it was diagnosed childhood onset depression. I had childhood events that were not processed, and I had them stuffed down inside. And it got worse and worse and worse as I got older, until I started having panic attacks, massive depression. And if you look at a depressed brain, a regular brain under an fMRI is all lit up like a Christmas tree. When it's overstressed, it shuts down, and it's like all the lights go out, and that's what depression looks like. And it's this feeling of yuck and like you're in hell. And I'm going, oh, that's what all these guys who read science fiction horror, they must be going through this, because that's exactly what it looks like. So it's this horrifying place to be. And I did have somebody say, not everybody can do what I do, because I just never give up. I get knocked down, I get back up, let's figure this out. I spent over $30,000. A lot of people can't do that, going from counselor to energy healer to voodoo doctors, essential oil. I mean, I tried everything and I wasn't getting better. And I was fortunate to get up one more time and find the guy who said, take care of this childhood trauma that you've been dealing with. Once that was healed, my kids go, geez, Dad, you went from being like a mosquito on cocaine all day to being really calm and reserved. So I actually saw the change, and the people around me saw the change. And my dad one day asked me, what's your favorite year of life? And I go, geez, Dad, it was the last year. I didn't know. It's like you had a broken leg and it's been killing you your whole life. And all of a sudden it's gone. The pain's gone. I go, the pain's been gone the whole last year. This has been my favorite year.
And can you speak to us a little bit, if you're open to it, what was that childhood trauma? Or did you just wipe it cold?
The very first one was my mother leaving me at somebody else's house while she went to the hospital to have her gallbladder taken out. I was 3 years old. The lady was wonderful, but the little boy felt like his mother was abandoning him. He felt rage and anger toward his mother. And that 3-year-old had to act it out in my 55-year-old mind, which came with a lot of rage and a lot of sobbing. A kindergarten teacher who embarrassed me in front of the whole class. A coach who put "I'm a loser" on all of our helmets when we lost a game. 13 years old. The childhood brain up to 25 years old, almost every single trauma I found was up to 25 years old. And when I finally got through all of it, it took 8 months and a lot of work. And it's horrifying. And one day I went, the colors came back on. It just seemed like life was back.
Absolutely. So going to that, you mentioned it was 8 months of hard work. Transformation is hard work. You have to make a diligent choice of, am I going to stay where I'm at now and keep suffering? Or am I going to put some work in and really go make a life happen for myself? What was that journey like? Was it therapy, or what did you do to transform this?
I was standing at the edge of the cliff going, I could jump off the cliff and end this pain, or I'll go one more day. And I don't know why I'm wired this way. I just kept going, I'll give it one more day. And my psychiatrist even says, I know you don't believe me, but it'll get better one day. I go, you're right. I don't believe you. And then I remember the very bottom of bottoms and taking that one little step in the other direction. And it just the darkness started getting lighter and lighter.
When did you start to see lightness at the end of the tunnel?
Oh, that was after, it was 2011 was when I was just the panic. Yeah, and panic is perceived danger, either real or imagined, like a bear's chasing you, but there wasn't a bear. But it floods your body with adrenaline. And if you're going through a panic attack, if you can be logical about it, go, oh, the chemicals have already been released in my body. It's going to take about 20 minutes for it to work its way out. But I was in a place where I was panicking about the panic, and it just kept going on and on. Started having arrhythmias with my heart. It was going to kill me eventually. But it was just going one day. It was just like, you can end it today. And when people end their lives, I get it. And when people sit there and go, that he's so selfish, he ended his life, I go, you have no idea what was going on inside of them, the pain and anguish that was their only way out. Because I know what it looks like. I have a friend who goes, I would rather die than go through that. And I sat there and go, well, they might. I didn't tell that person that, but I went, if I had to go face that trauma again, that would be a really tough thing.
Absolutely. So was there any driving factor other than saying one more day that kept you here?
The day Robin Williams ended his life, I think the next day was that day. And I don't know how the universe works, call it God, your higher self, whatever. I'm sitting there, I've had it, I can't do this anymore. And it's like I saw everybody I know that was sad that I did that. And I went, they'll get over it. That didn't do it. And then all of a sudden, my brain sees like thousands of people and I go, who are they? And whatever higher self or whatever it is that goes on in our head said, oh, well, you're really good at expressing and communicating a message. These are the people you will help if you can get out of this mess. And that was the motivation to go, okay, I'll go another day. That was the turning point.
I love that. Was there any specific people that you saw, I want to make an impact on so-and-so through my transformation?
No, it was just because I've spoken to so many large groups. It was almost like seeing one of those large groups. And then what's interesting, that was in 2014. I think it was April of 2014. Since then, I've spoken to well over 1 million people about this very topic, got a TED Talk on it, done it for the military. And I go, oh, there's all those people and I've had people tell me that it made a difference.
I love that. Is there any stories that stick out to you of the impact that you've made on individuals?
I was once asked to drive about 4 hours to speak to a class down at one of the colleges in southern Utah. Okay. If a door opens, I just step through it. And I do a lot of it pro bono. So I went down there and I spoke to this class of 80 kids. On the way out, I saw one of the kids that was in the class and he went in overalls. And I just started talking to him, say, hey, yeah, call me anytime you want. And he calls me a week later. He says, keep doing what you're doing. I go, what's going on? He goes, well, I remember that part you said to always look for somebody that you could lift their spirits or make happy. And well, one of my professors helped me a lot, and I was going to tell him that day. And I was going to fail the class anyways, but I was going to tell him how much I appreciate him, but he wasn't there. Well, it's a small town. I knew where he lived. I went to his door and knocked on it. The guy opened up the door, and he looked pretty. He goes, sir, are you okay? He goes, yeah, what's going on? Well, I just wanted to tell you that I'm so thankful that you were my professor, and I hope we can be friends. And he said, the guy started crying. He said, I was ready to end my life because I thought I didn't mean anything to anyone. So we send ripples out. But that's one of the few where I heard about what happened by just doing what you're doing. There's no such thing as a small act of kindness. Each act creates a ripple with no logical end.
Absolutely. For a moment, I'd love to tell a story, not my story, but one of my friend Parker Kane's story. So he's a beatboxer, and he's been beatboxing since a very young kid. He found a sense of security with it as his parents went through a divorce and went through some other hardships. And one day, he's LDS, he believes in God. One day he had his last prayer, contemplating jumping off the cliff, as you mentioned. And it wasn't necessarily a typical prayer. It was more angry, like, why me? And he looked back and he saw his dog, and it was late at night. And his friends called just for a late night McDonald's run. Hey, you want to go to McDonald's? And he shared in past podcasts that normally he would say no. He would just sit in his room and seclude himself from the world. He said yes. That day he went on to beatbox for the entire McDonald's in a McDonald's cup. That night, his friend asked, hey, do you want to post this? He said, no, it's stupid. His friend asked him to post it. That post went on to go viral around the entire world, over 1 billion views. He locked in a commercial with McDonald's, and he's been speaking and beatboxing around the nation since. Reason I share that is since then, he's been doing podcasting as well. And, it's easy to look at the views like, oh, I'm not making that big of an impact. I'm not doing this. Well, turns out that one of his biggest fans was a cancer patient and would listen to his YouTube videos and podcasts every single day. And that's what brought the cancer patient essentially hope and peace.
That's awesome. Yeah, you never know. I have a really good friend who feels like he's not done anything in the world. And I said, well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have learned how to kick, which got me into college. And if it wasn't for you dropping out of college, you motivated me to not drop out of college. And if it wasn't for you to be on the phone when I was going through my hardest times, I wouldn't be here today. I said, do you know how many people I've spoken to because you were there for me? Do you know the story of the man in the hole? It's one of my favorite stories.
I don't believe so, no.
A guy falls into a hole and can't get out. A doctor comes walking by. Hey, doc, can you help me out? He says, sure. And he writes out a prescription, throws it in the hole, walks away. Pastor comes by. Oh, can you help me out? Sure. And he writes out a prayer, throws it into the hole, and he walks away. Then the guy's best friend comes by. Oh, can you help me out? Sure. And he jumps down in the hole. He goes, are you stupid? What did you do that for? I've been here before. Let me show you the way out. So when I speak to the prison or I speak to addiction recovery centers, a lot of them are pushing away a lot of pain, dealing with a lot of pain. I said, 40% of our world is now dealing with psychological yuck. I said, we need you because the person who can make the biggest difference are the ones who've gone through it themselves, and they know what the pain is like. And you can be empathetic, and you can put your arm around them, and you can be there for them.
Absolutely. Well said. So other than working with a psychiatrist, it was that helped you get out of your pain, correct?
With the trauma, yes.
Was there anything else that you've put in place in your life to overcome your hardships?
Oh, well, the journey still continued because when the trauma was gone and the depression was gone and the panic attacks, there was still anxiety. And anxiety is different than panic. Anxiety deals with cortisol, where panic is adrenaline. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it usually comes from worrying about things. And I was always, I got to get better at this. So I learned all about positivity, gratitude, happiness, affirmations, and making a long story short, I was the most positive, grateful, happy, affirmative, blah, 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 anxious person every single day. And then I met James Hadlock, who said, I'm going to teach you how to get connected to yourself, connected to others, connected to nature, and you're going to quiet down. I went, oh, how do you do that? Because I used to talk like that all the time. Probably just scared all of you. I scared myself. But he started with, can somebody make you angry? He goes, no, you're triggered. It comes from inside. It's like the little boy says, Mommy, where are all the stupid idiot drivers today? They only come out when your father's driving. I said, so why can two people see the same event and one gets angry and one does not? It's what's going on in here. And then we go to, happiness. Happiness comes from in here. So it's reflecting, connecting to self, right? Connecting to others, being able to talk to someone and look them in the eye. And I had a psychiatrist teach me all about, did you know that when we look each other in the eye, when we have a conversation, it actually calms our sympathetic nervous systems down? We're actually wired to do that. The best thing you can do for a baby is not look at your phone, look in their eyes, because that's how they have proper brain development. So he taught me how to really get connected to others and connected to nature. And then one day I said, what did you do to me? He goes, what? I said, all the talking in my head stopped. It's really quiet in there. And he said, well, I just taught you connection, and connection quiets the mind. And that's what the TED Talk became about.
That's beautiful. So what are the best steps to take? One, I know any individual's favorite word is their name. Like let's be honest, I learned that from you, right? I think I learned that from you. I'd say so. What would you say are the best ways to connect with self and others?
First of all, with self. Okay, I'm home. I'm having an anger. I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to blame it. I'm just going, I'm having an anger. Oh, I'm having a thought. And you watch it. That's the steps towards mindfulness. Michael Singer has a great thing on that too. Mindfulness 2016. Then connected to others is, I used to just practice looking somebody in the eye and talking to them. And my friend said, now let people know that you're doing that because it makes some people feel uncomfortable. But there's actually an exercise that I've done in the prisons, wherever I speak, where I sit knee to knee with somebody and just look them in the eye and we have a discussion. And after 3 or 4 minutes, I go, does this feel different than a normal discussion? And they report, yes, it does. So having conversations, looking at each other, putting the phone away because that's a distraction, those types of things.
I love that. So what I heard was, one, mindfulness, disassociating essentially from the emotions that you want to work through, anger, anxiety, stress, whatever the case is.
I don't know. It's feeling it. It's important to feel your emotions. The prison has a rage room. They don't want these guys bottling up their emotions. Go in there and get it out of your system. And they punch the bag and get it out. Because otherwise, if you keep burying it, it can compromise your immune system. You get cancer, you get sick a lot, or you blow up. And when somebody's angry, the blood leaves your frontal lobe and you do and say things you normally wouldn't do or say. Everybody goes, oh, that's right. Can you ever have a reasonable conversation with somebody whose fists are clenched? No, you got to wait till they relax. And so if somebody's mad at me, I just listen to them the whole time, let them get it off their chest, as long as they're not swinging their arms and I'm not in danger. And then they usually go, God, I can't believe I just said that all to you. No problem. So what's going on? So that's some of the ways of getting connected to others. And it's with children. Another thing that's really interesting, somebody said this is a secret of pickup artists, but he said how to immediately connect with anybody. And an example, God, that's a really cool shirt. I walked into Walmart with a friend of mine on Christmas Eve. I said, watch this. I'll make every single person I meet smile. And I did what I just did with your shirt or their earrings, not how they look, but something, oh my gosh, those are great looking shoes. And almost I won. Every single person smiled. So you compliment them on something that you truly like about what you see, and then followed up with a question that they can answer. Hey, what is a good place to eat around here? And you can start into the conversation and you're starting to get connected. So I found that worked in the prisons we found what we thought was the meanest looking person at the Atlanta airport. He's got chains on. He's got the skull on his face, the tattoos. I walked up, dude, those are awesome looking sneakers. He goes, thanks, man. I walk into elevators, turn around and go, hi, everyone, welcome to the elevator. And they all smile.
I love it. Would you say that you were always energetic in a manner that was positive, uplifting, to compel smiles and happiness?
No, I was neurotic. I had people, my kids told me, Dad, we were on eggshells around you all the time. It was always go, go, go. Like, we got to get this done. Then we can go boating. And Dad, we had a lot of fun, but we were always just like, what's Dad gonna, because I was the person, you'll find people are addicted to emotion. Any organization I was with, I found the problem and I would stir up the pot to try to get it fixed. And one of my promoters goes, Bob, do you notice that you're always stirring up the pot somewhere? It's like you're looking for the problem. And it would help the organization eventually, but it wasn't in a positive manner. There were people that were, I'll never forget one of my best friend's wife. Every time I went to Sacramento, California, we'd go out to dinner. And we were there for an hour and a half. And he looks at his wife and says, is there anything different about Bob? She goes, I hated going to dinner with you. It was like we were here for 20 minutes and you were ready to go. And you were just talking like a million miles an hour. And I was stressed out around you. And now you're just like really calm and you listen. And so I've had this energy to be able to go up on stage and, keep my audience's attention. I don't know where that came from. And I still use that when I'm speaking because it gets everyone's attention. But when I go out, I used to be like a mosquito on cocaine. If I say that from stage, people go, well, not much has changed. You still are. It's not until they meet with me one-on-one that we have a discussion and we chat and I listen that they can see that there's a big difference. And I've had many people say, I just told you things I've never told anyone before.
Do you feel like that comes from your genuineness of putting away the phone, looking them in their eyes and complimenting them and genuinely being present?
And the other part is just the authenticity part. It used to be, because I am single, I go out and want to put my best foot forward. And then one day I said, I've been divorced more than once and I've had, severe mental health problems with depression and anxiety. And I'm doing a lot better now. And I thought that would scare them away. And almost every time they go, oh, well, let me tell you what's going on with me. And it opened up the doors. I remember the first time I stood on stage was with the National Speakers Association, all the other speakers. And I said, oh, well, what the heck? Guys, you see that guy on that picture behind me? And it was a picture of me on a big stage. Doesn't he look like he's got a lot of self-confidence and, he's got to put it together? That guy is hiding behind a mask of insecurity and depression. And I finally had to tell somebody I need help. And I had people tell me it changed everything in that moment. All the walls came down and everybody goes, oh, he's just like us. And it related to the crowd much better.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that for a moment, being seen. A lot of young entrepreneurs out here are scared of being seen, being vulnerable. How can they transform that so that they can start to, share their story so that they let those weights off their own shoulders, but also so they can start making an impact in the rooms they're in?
It's all part of growing up because we're taught that you need to do something to be of worth. Now we're worried about what other people think. I love this. I don't worry about what other people think. It takes a lot of energy to think for other people. Or what other people think of you is none of your business. Now you'll go, well, yeah, but then I'll never get the promotion. Or it's being able to go, I am who I am. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, great. But that's a very tough place to get to because I was always trying to impress whoever was in front of me. And if I wasn't, I would do all of my power to try to change their mind. I'd look for the 5% of my audience that wasn't paying attention to me and try to win them over instead of speaking to my people, the ones that were with me. So it goes back to that. It's in the TED Talk, but it's that part about how to quit worrying about the future and beating yourself up over the past. Remember that?
Yeah.
And should I just share that?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So your emotions are real, but they come from thoughts and your thoughts aren't real. And people go, well, what do you mean my thoughts aren't real? And I go, well, picture a spider crawling across your face. And they'll go like that. And I go, is there a spider? Look at the power of thought. And it's not even real. Did you ever go to a scary movie and it's freaking you out? And then you remember, oh, it's not real. So there was a young lady, 17 years old, who was scared to death about a soccer game that was coming up. And I said, why? She goes, well, I'm afraid I'm going to fall down. I'm afraid the coach is going to yell at me. I'm afraid we're going to lose and it's going to be my fault. I said, wow. I said, are you currently playing soccer right now? She goes, what? Are you currently playing soccer right now? She goes, no, I'm sitting here with you on a Tuesday in my living room. Oh, did you fall down on Saturday? Did the coach yell at you on Saturday? Did you guys lose and you're not going to state? No. I said, you have a whole bunch of thoughts and they're not real. And look what it's doing for you. You get to bite your nails and not sleep at night and be anxious all day. Would you like to find a better way? Yeah. And that's what the question my coach asked me. What would you experience right now in this moment, sitting here with me, without that movie playing in your head that's not even real? Wake up from the nightmare. Be right here, right now. 17 years old, she looked at her dad and said, geez, Dad, I could be. And then she got it. She goes, it's not real. It took me 3 months of putting reminders all over my house and car till I finally got to that place. I go, when you have anxiety about the future or you're mad or sad about the past, it's coming from a thought and it's not And she got angry later. And I said, why are you mad? She goes, you know what my sister said to me 2 days ago? And then she starts laughing. 17 years old. She's laughing. I go, why are you laughing? It's over. The only way for me to be mad is to play the movie of 2 days ago. And she's not even here. And she got it. So the only exception, once again, is like I do this for the military. If they've had PTSD, they've been in battle, they've seen horrible things, or maybe you've had a trauma like a kindergarten teacher who embarrassed you and it won't go away, then you need a therapist to help you unwind it. Otherwise, so when I was told 4 years ago I had cancer, and he says, when you wake up, I'll either tell you I can't save you, I removed your bladder, or you got a 95% chance to live in the next 5 years. I went, okay. And I'm on the operating table. He's ready to put me under. And he goes, what's going on with you? I go, what? I'm looking at your vitals. Your heart rate is 60. Your blood pressure is normal. And you look cool as a cucumber. Aren't you worried about what I'm going to tell you when you wake up? No, I'm fine. Hey, did you guys all have lunch? It's important to be happy when you're operating. And I'm cracking jokes. And he goes, how are you doing this? I mean, you can't get me to worry anymore. I like what Byron Katie said. You're in heaven right now. I mean, look at us. It's perfect, except for the thought that kicks us out of heaven. Geez, I wonder if she'll call me back if I text her in 10 minutes. Oh, there's a thought that kicked. I wonder if I'll get that raise. I wonder if he's still mad at me. There's the thoughts that kick you out of heaven. You catch yourself, and then you can keep getting closer and closer to being right here, right now.
And in turn, you enjoy life more and you have more optimal results.
Yeah, I don't have cortisol ripping through my body. You'll make better decisions when you're calm and can think clearly than when your mind is like a snow globe all shook up.
But also cortisol, adrenaline, these natural chemicals aren't necessarily serving you if they're always going in your body, which means cancer or whatever the case is isn't necessarily decreasing in your body.
Yeah, I mean, it has its things to help you, like, but we don't have to worry about a bear. You know, in our lifetime, we might have 8 real life-threatening moments, but how many times did we worry ourselves to death in between those 8 times in our whole life?
More than 8, that's for sure. Lots daily with the average person.
So, and I used to live in worry, well, God, what if I don't speak again? What if I get cancer again? What if I don't find her again? What if I don't? My whole life was of all the possibilities of yuck.
Absolutely. So your transformation, I'm curious to know how that's impacted your family.
Well, my kids have said that it's a lot more calmer being around me now. So, and then me being authentic with them, it opened them up. They're in a place where they can share things with me.
Absolutely. Do you feel that they've also been inspired to make their own transformations with self since you've gone through your own transformation?
I'm blown away by how much stuff they know. Like daughter says to me, Dad, you know what I found out? It's not my job to make other people happy. So she would say things like that. Codependency, it's not my job to make my husband happy. If I do that, you know, I've set myself up to fail. They just seem to know a whole bunch of things that I go, God, I was in my 50s before I'd learned any of this stuff. So yeah, they've learned a lot because they watched me go through a lot.
Absolutely. Have your kids come and watch you speak, I would assume?
Oh yeah, my one son, he's 30 years old. Thomas, I got a new story for you. Oh, Dad, don't tell me a story. You've been telling me stories my whole life. When you tell stories like the bathroom fan, I know it's on, but I'm not really paying attention. My other daughter, she said, my boss said, how come you're not like other teenagers? She goes, what do you mean? You get here early, you stay late, you're cheerful, you bring everybody. How come you're like this? Oh, I guess it's because my dad told me the Holiday Inn story. And I go, you guys actually listen to my stories? So yeah, they've heard everything ad nauseum.
Well, now I'm curious. What's the Holiday Inn story?
Oh, it's a long story.
It's a long story.
Okay, summing it up, I had a guy, my mother told me when you get a job, she goes, most people work just hard enough to just get by. She goes, that will not be you. Most people work in slow motion. That will not be you. If you want to practice lazy, you'll be lazy your whole life. When he asks you to do something, you run. You don't walk, you run. Do it as fast as you can, get back and ask him what's next. And she goes, and make it fun. Too many people are waiting for something in the future to be fun. You make whatever he gives you fun. So I was doing that. And after 3 or 4 days, I was driving this guy nuts. So he takes me outside. He says, okay, pal, sweep the parking lot. I said, which part? He said, all of it. You know how big a parking lot is around a whole Holiday Inn?
Oh, can't even imagine.
He walks back inside and he tells somebody there, this will keep him out of my hair for a couple of weeks. So I'm standing out there with my broom going, how do I make this fun? And I went, I'll time myself. So I looked at my watch. I go, I'll time myself. How long does it take me to go from one end of the parking lot to the other? And then I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to break my record. Didn't take 2 weeks. It took 2 days. I walked back in and he looked, what are you doing in here? I'm done. You're done with what? I said, the parking lot. And he said, which part? I said, all of it. And he came outside and he walked me around the whole thing and he put his arm around me. He says, pal, you're going to have to slow down. You're making us look bad here. And he retired as the maintenance man at that Holiday Inn. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I know he hated his job. But my mother taught me a very important lesson. Make it fun. Do your very best. I had one of my promoters say, you are not like any of the other speakers that come here. They usually show up with their entourage. They're in the green room. They come out, they speak, they leave, and it's pretty much it in general. He goes, you get here before the show starts. You're helping me set up the lighting, the chairs. You're watching the show like you are the producer. He goes, why do you do that? I said, my mother taught me that. So and everybody remembers that. I mean, if you're going to go do something, go do it. There's a coach at Boise State. I said, how did you turn the basketball program here around? He said, I taught these kids to star in their role. And he showed me a picture of a kid waving a towel. I told him, you're a freshman, you're not going to get to play, but you're going to be the best towel waver in the NCAA. He showed me another picture of a guy diving for a pass out of bounds. He said, you'll only be playing 3 minutes a game, but you're going to be the best 3-minute player in the NCAA. He said, and I told my fans, you're going to be the best fan. And he said, star in your role, wherever you are. And by developing that habit, everybody will notice that too. But you also have this sense of, yeah, this seems to work better than just trying to get by.
Make things fun.
Yeah.
That's a good way. That's a good rule of thumb for anything in life. Not only your 9-to-5 job, business, make everything fun. And in turn, what I hear from that is you connect with people because you're enjoying yourself, which allows you to show up more fully in the present moment. And that's a beautiful thing. As we talked, when you're present and you're connected, you're naturally going to enjoy more life. So my next question to you is what are all the techniques that you did to make things fun for yourself in life? You timed yourself. What else?
God, what things did when I used to be a field goal kicker, there were these little kids that would come out and I say, hey, I'm going to kick 5 field goals from each yard line. You say, this is it. And if I miss that one, you guys get $5 and they're shagging the balls for me. So they're having fun and I'm having fun. God, what do I do to make things fun? I don't know, whatever situation I'm in, if I'm playing golf, I've got 100 jokes memorized. I just start telling jokes. Think, what are you, a stand-up comic? No, I'm a stand-up plagiarizer. But here's another joke. So it's just, my bowling team. I actually stopped bowling for a while. You know why? I found out you could buy trophies. Never mind. I'll work on my comic timing. But anyway, these guys, they just go, it's just more fun. They go, we're in last place, but we're having a ball because we're just cracking jokes. And there's other guys are taking it really seriously. I go, I used to do that. I used to, accidentally miss the pin and just go, but I healed my childhood rage. And so now I go, that's another thing my kids noticed. Dad, you used to break all the clubs in your golf bag. Now you hit a ball in the water and you just laugh. What's going on? So it's a lot funner place to be. You know what suffering is? Arguing with what is. Oh, the ball didn't go in the hole. Well, I'm arguing with what is because it's still not going in the hole. I was playing pickleball with this guy and he missed the shot. He goes, sorry. I go, for what? Did you miss it on purpose? He goes, well, no. I said, okay. He says, but I should have hit it over the net. I go, you're not good enough to should have hit it over the net. You're okay. Don't worry. We're not playing for the free world as we know it. So it's just doing stuff like that, lightening up the mood. Like April Osteen, Joel Osteen's sister, we used to do some shows together. And one of her things was lighten up, just lighten up.
Absolutely. So the last thing that I want, everything you do very well.
No, I just make sure I do the things that I do very well. I don't play lacrosse because I don't do that very well.
That's fair. Good point. I want to bring it back to goals though. How have you mastered your skills? You're a great speaker. You're great at being present. You're great at making people feel important. How do you master your skills with no goals?
It's following that inspired thought. Like here's 10 things I'd like to get better at. Which one should I work on next? And I just follow it. When a door opens, I step through it. Driving up here today, I always get to places early so I can find it. And I'm up here an hour and a half early and I'm going, who do I know around here? And a guy's name pops into my head. Haven't seen him in a few months. He's the president of a company. And my first counter thought is, well, he's probably busy. Baloney. He popped into my head. I call him. Hey man, you want to go to lunch? I got about an hour. I'm not doing anything. Oh, That would be great. And so I follow that. Now, one other thing, there's Jamie DeNovo up in Canada wrote a book, and it's deals with what's called the one sock theory. So if you want to do something to try to motivate yourself, if you set a goal, I'm going to run 5 miles every day. Okay, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal. You'll probably never get around to it. And she said, did you know? And then she said, science shows this. You set a goal to put on one sock tomorrow morning when you get out of bed and you celebrate it. It builds the same neural pathway as if you had run the 5 miles because you had a victory. Next day, I'm going to put 2 socks on, celebrate. Next day, I'm going to put on my whole, then we get to the end of the driveway. And there's a way that psychologically we can actually, build that up within ourselves. And in fact, one of the guys on Shark Tank, I can't remember which one it was, says, I like to invest with women, entrepreneurs, because guys set big, hairy, audacious goals that just demoralizes everyone, or you could be demoralizing yourself. Women typically will set small, attainable goals and celebrate on a regular basis, makes it fun. So if you're going to set goals, that seems to be the direction that I would be more inclined to make. But I'm still doing with, what should I do now? Oh, somebody called me up to do a podcast. Okay. And I just do it. And that's how I ended up with the book and being on those stages. And once again, I might be the outlier. Maybe it just works for some other people some of the time.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that I want to call out as far as memory as well, and the one thing that I remember from the book, I remember a lot of things. I know I just said the one thing is you made it fun. How do I remember? It's like Karen, and I envision a bird that's Karen on her head and this, that, the third, and you make it fun.
Hey, my name's Bob, B-O-B. You can spell forward or backwards the same way or just see me bobbing.
Exactly. You make it fun.
Yeah.
And naturally that helps you remember.
And it helps them. You can help people remember your name too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I love that you point that out. You make your name fun as well. So that's interesting. If there was, bringing back to memory just for a moment to touch upon it, because memory will make a big impact on your life. You remember people's names, that makes them feel good, comes back to connection. What are some simple tips that you could throw out there for the audience around memory?
Once again, remembering people's names instead of going, first of all, if you don't remember their name, don't say, hey, buddy, or, because you both know you forgot. Just go, remind me of your name again, if that's where you're at. But when I meet somebody, Cameron Burnside, okay? So Cameron reminds me of Cam, like an engine. So I look at his face and I go, oh, the first thing catches my attention is his one eyebrow. So I put the engine right on the Cam engine right there on his eyebrow. Or another one was Scott. I ripped the Scotch tape off of his beard. So just a picture and a picture, and you put them together. And then, just a simple method for like, how do I remember all of my jokes, quotes, and stories? A simple method to at least get you up to 20. A lot of the numbers look like something in real life. For instance, 2 looks like a swan. Can you kind of see it? So I see a swan on my bare arm to remind me the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. 8 looks like a snowman. So I'm going to take a blowtorch and melt the poor little snowman because that's cruel and unusual. Well, that's cruel and unusual punishment, the 8th Amendment. So it's little things like that I came across that I taught other people how to do.
Perfect. My next question is, for example, I know quite a bit of Scots. How do you remember each individual Scott?
Oh, I don't, because I'm not a genius. But each one of them, it might be in a different place. It might be the day I met him. Okay. I met him at Cabela's, and we're both drinking lots of scotch. Well, there's Scott. Another one, it could be Scotch tape. Another one, it could be Scott toilet tissue. So, right off the top of my head, that's my direction.
Well, you're doing a good job. Now, I could keep talking to you, Bob. And again, I've followed you for years, and I love seeing your successes and the stories that you share and the impact that you're making. So I want to thank you again for coming on today.
Well, thanks for asking.
Absolutely. And the 2 final questions I have for you. One is, what is your definition of an authentic life?
Oh, great. What is my definition of authentic? It's being who you are and not being fake. Hey, would you like some sushi? If I don't like sushi, that's not my favorite. Well, then you're going to offend the person. Well, the person who's offended is the one with the problem. I'm not going to do it on purpose. That was a big, big lesson in life. The person who's upset is the one with the problem. And there's a girl I was dating. You mean if you do something that ticks me off, it's my problem? I go, uh-huh. I said, however, let me know that I'm doing something to trigger you because I won't do it on purpose. But yeah, if you can go, that's interesting. That bothers me. I'm going to have to reflect on that. So being able to just be authentic and go, this is all coming from me. It's not what's going on out there. It's what's coming from inside. I don't know if that's a great way to define it, but that's kind of how it is.
I love it. I think it's perfect. Hits it right on the ball.
Or like my daughter said, Anna, why are you so concerned with how you look? Look at Dad. He doesn't care what people think.
Kids share the truth sometimes, and that's our problem if we don't like it.
Well, then we have the problem, right?
Exactly. So the next question is, if there was one last thing that you could share with my audience today, what would that be?
One last thing, that there never is one last thing. It's even with, I'll have yuck come up again and go, oh, there's another layer of the onion. I thought I already had this handled. And instead of fighting it, embracing it and going, great, what will I learn from this? So that there's always one more thing. And if you're alive, the journey's not over.
I love it. What I hear from that is always strive for mastery, but know that you're never going to be truly a master.
Okay, that's a good one.
The master always has room to grow as well.
Yeah.
And if the master feels like there's no room to grow, the master has just capped his growth.
Oh, I don't know if we have time for this, but real quick, this one guy starts all of his speeches like the young man goes to the master and says, I want to be enlightened and learn. And so he starts telling him about all his adventures and journeys. And the master starts pouring tea into a cup, and it overflows the cup. It overflows the saucer. And finally, the young man goes, Sir, master, the cup is overflowing. He goes, And like the cup, your mind is full of your own experiences and ideas. And if you want to learn something new, you must first empty the cup.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bob. Is there anything I and my audience can do to support you?
Be a ripple that passes it on.
Love it.
Thanks.
Thank you again so much for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast. If you found value in what you heard today with me and Bob, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. This helps me to continue to get the best guests on the show, creating the most valuable content for you guys. Also, while I have you here, if you are really, truly, genuinely ready to transform your life, whether that's in yourself, your business, or your relationships, go to braidenbelknap.com or the link below and fill out the form. That way me and you can hop on a call and go through an hour coaching session where I can help you create your vision, your plan to get there, and ultimately overcome your biggest obstacle. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.